Shout out to everybody who's here. We're about to start our car shopping questions and answers live. We'll be answering as many questions about car shopping, leasing, buying, pre-owned cars as we can in about an hour. So feel free to start typing them, and we'll get the show on the road. If you don't know me, my name is Deshone. I'm known as Deshone the Auto Advisor. All I do is focus on teaching people online strategies to pay less than everyone else for new cars, used cars, and leases. I spent 14 years in the car business. In the last 3 years, I've been teaching people like you all around the country how to get below market deals. It's only three prices you can pay for any car: market value, above market value, or below market value. My mission for those who are locked in and willing to listen and willing to apply these strategies is for you to pay below market prices for any vehicle that you get. Everything we're going to be talking about is out of my new digital book. It's called Cars from Home. It's already 5-star rated. You can Google it. It's called Cars from Home, 7 Steps to Saving Time, Money, and Avoiding Dealerships. And you can get yours for 75% off as part of our welcome offer. You can get it in my TikTok bio, in my Instagram bio, or in the YouTube comments or the Facebook comments. If you go into my bio, just click the picture of me. Go grab your book for 75% off. You won't pay the normal price, and you'll have it in your inbox in the next 2-3 minutes. But make sure when you get your book, you screenshot the thank you page so you can have my support team's email as well, just in case you type your email wrong. But that's our welcome offer to you, 75% off Cars from Home, if you want the entire blueprint of everything we're going to be talking about. Okay, so with that said, now the housekeeping is done. You guys know that's only a 30-minute offer. So after 30 minutes, that welcome offer is gone. So if you like what you're hearing, definitely go and grab your copy of Cars from Home for 75% off in my bio or in the comment section. So, all right, let's start here. First question: should husband and wife buy together or separate based on better credit? Okay, so there's no right or wrong here, but if you're saying what gives us the best chance for the best approval, you can say, all right, we can go on, we can try to go on together. Could you get approved by yourself? And so I keep my credit into, with no additional debt. Or if I'm trying to build credit and you're trying to build credit, then all right, we might go on together. But if it's not necessary for us to go on together, then you may want to keep your credit profile separately and just, get the person who can get approved the individual approval. But if you are building and you would like to have that payment history on your credit as well, then you can add it to both people's name. It really depends on your personal goals and where you're at. There's no right or wrong. It just depends on your goals. All right, let's go, everybody. Keep typing your questions. We got our first couple questions. As you type them, we'll add them to the show, and we'll get through as many as we can in the next hour. Go ahead, Dolan, shoot the next question up. Okay, what's up, Reem 99? I have a 2019 Chevy Silverado. I owe about 30,000, 120,000 miles. So the first thing that you should be considering is you're a high mileage driver. So I want you to look at this lesson that you're about to learn on depreciation. All right, here's what everyone buying or leasing or considering acquiring a depreciating asset like a car needs to understand. This is what I call the depreciation curve. This is also what I call the unseen expense. So you'll hear a lot of people who come to our streams refer to the unseen expense, which is depreciation. So if you buy a vehicle today, and stay by your keyboard so you can dialogue as I ask you these questions. That's how you're going to get the most out of this video. As if you buy a car today for 40,000, let's say I left it outside your house. Somebody gave you a $40,000 car. You don't have to pay for it, but you don't need it. And you say, look, I don't need it. I can't drive it. You can leave it there, but it's just going to sit there for a year because I can't use it. If you came back a year later, you never drove that car. Remember, we bought it for 40. If you come back a year later, never drove it 1 mile, is it still worth 40? Yes or no? Let's go. Type into the chat fast so we can get this. So we can keep the show high speed. Everybody who's dialoguing, I appreciate you. You usually get a lot out of these because, your dialogue. So thank you. No, Gary. No to pull up. No, okay. All right, perfect. So we understand. Now, if you came back to that car a year later, you never drove it, and it's worth, let's say 35, 34, whatever it is, you bought it for 40, it lost value. See, because it doesn't matter whether you bought it and didn't drive it, or you leased it, or you owned it. See, when you start understanding depreciation like we're going over, now you can properly assess whether you should lease or buy a car and how you are going to beat depreciation. Because the entire goal for leasing versus buying is which one of these strategies, if I get a below market deal, allows me to beat depreciation based on my lifestyle. So so a high mileage driver, your depreciation ring looks entirely different from a normal driver. So where one driver might be 40,000, they come back a year later, their car's worth, 36, 34. If they didn't drive it, if they put average miles on it, maybe it's worth 32. They're losing money based on their mileage. You might put 40, 30,000 on that car in 1 year. So your depreciation looks like this now. It doesn't look like this. Your car goes from being worth 40 1 year to literally it could be worth 26 the next year because you put 30,000 miles on it. So you have to take into account depreciation differently than a normal person. Everyone has to take it into account, but you have to, any high mileage drivers on here, if you drive more than 18,000 miles, I want you to type HM into the chat for high mileage. This is specifically how you need to be looking at depreciation so that you don't keep flipping out of cars and then coming back with huge amounts of negative equity because you're structuring your deals like you're not a high mileage driver and you're killing your values. High mileage drivers used to come into the dealership with, cars that were 5 years old, got 180,000 miles on them, and they still have big loans left. They still have loans that show they got a loan like a normal driver, 5-year loan, 6-year loan. This is what normal drivers can get based on their ownership. High mileage drivers, you cannot do that because all you're doing is pushing your losses to the back end. You might have a lower payment of $150 less, but what's going to happen is when you go to replace this car in 5 years, 6 years, if it still has a loan, now you're dealing with huge amounts of negative equity that you have to now roll over to your next vehicle or put 10, 15, 20 grand down so that you don't have that going to your next vehicle. So the smarter thing for you to do, Reem, is to figure out right up front, how many years are you keeping your next car? And if you're keeping your next car, like if you give you an example, let's go deeper. If you had kept this same Chevy Silverado for another 5 years, it wouldn't matter. Instead of it having 120,000 miles on it, you'd have probably 220,000 miles on it. The truck could go that long. If you got a good one, a quality one, then you should be able to put that money. You should be able to get that time out of that truck. But because you're a short-term owner, you're considering a short-term replacement, now you have to take into account leasing. Does it make more sense for me to get a below market lease on these vehicles, pay less, build in my mileage so that I can avoid depreciation? Because if you're buying these vehicles and then you're destroying the value and you're replacing them in 5 years, you're not getting all of that money that you put in that car back out of it. You could have put much less money into it and still driven the truck. So the whole goal is getting out of this stuck in the middle and thinking 5 years, 6 years is a long time to have a vehicle. It's not. You're still in short term because you're still in the big depreciation phase. See, once you get to about 8 years, that depreciation is going to start looking like this. So your truck this year is going to be worth about the same next year. It's not depreciating like this anymore, losing thousands and thousands every year. That's where you want to get to if you're buying. If you're not keeping the vehicle that long, you should not be buying, because all you're doing is riding the depreciation slide all the way down, and then you go and get another vehicle, ride it down again. Get another vehicle, ride it down again. You're never getting to the point where you could benefit like a long-term owner and stop losing value every single time. And if you're not keeping your vehicles 8 years, my rule is you lease. You shop for a below-market lease. Now, we could go a little deeper on that. If somebody has a follow-up question, this is about business. I assume you're making money from that truck. So if you're making money from that truck, then you should be structuring your deal and your finances in a way that gets you the short-term wins and doesn't push the losses to the back like a negative equity. Like I said, you got a $400 payment, but every time you replace the vehicle, you got 15 grand negative equity. Smarter thing to do would be to have a shorter loan, higher payment slightly, but then when you go replace the car's paid off, Now, instead of having negative equity, you might have something that's worth $5 grand, $8 grand that you could use as an asset, so that's what it's about. All right. When it comes to these understanding this is all in my digital book. You have to understand depreciation is step one. Cue up the next question, Dolan. Depreciation is next step one. When you go into a car transaction, your first question is to decide how I'm going to beat depreciation, through a below market lease or through a below market purchase. But if you do a below market purchase, which means you pay less than everyone else paid, but you should have leased, then you paid too much. There's no one on here, myself included, who can get a below market purchase and then replace that car in 3, 4, 5 years and have it be less money than we would have spent on a below market lease. A purchase is always much more, even with a great deal, than a lease would be with a below market lease. So this is what we deal with up front. Leasing versus buying is the first step in my book, the most important question. That's the foundation of our deals. Nothing more important than that. All right, go ahead, Dolan. All right, come on, keep typing the questions. I know we got a lot. We'll try to get through as many as we can in an hour. Okay, BMW X7, new or used. Okay, so if you're purchasing, which means you're a long-term person, you're going to beat depreciation through long-term ownership. Whenever you're purchasing, your goal is to beat depreciation through long-term ownership. So how many people have a vehicle? If you have a vehicle that you've had in your driveway for at least 8 years, I want you to type the number of years into the chat. Type the number of years into the comments if you had a vehicle more than 8 years, 10 years, type it in, 11 years, 13 years, 8 years, only if it's more than 8. I want to show you how you should be looking at purchasing and what your goal should be. What your goal should be when you buy. Okay, so I see somebody TikTok 15 years. I see, okay, brother, I see 11 years. Okay, anyone who has a car, if you have a vehicle in your driveway right now that you have had, William Smith, 12 years. Okay, if you've had it more than 8 years, type the number of years into the chat so that you can understand what we're about to break down here. Because you're asking Chuck T, new or used. This is totally based on budget, but after you decide what your goal is, which is a long-term purchase. All right, 9 years. I see you, Liz. All right, so when you look at keeping a vehicle as long as the people who just shouted out how many years they've kept it, this is what their depreciation looks like now. Some of them like this. Somebody like brother who he's had his vehicle 11 years, his depreciation is like this. What does that mean? If his vehicle today is worth $7,000, a year from now, it'll probably be worth close to 7,000, maybe 68, 62, 7. He's losing a very small amount through depreciation. He's beat depreciation. So that's the benefit of all the money he put into the car, is he now has a vehicle that is no longer depreciated. He could drive it for 4 or 5 more years. My father had a GMC Envoy that he's had since 2013. We bought it pre-owned for him. He's had it since then, paid it off 5, 6 years ago, and he's had that vehicle. It's been worth about $5,000 for the last 2 years, and he's going to sell it for close to that. So that's when you beat depreciation. Now, when you are not buying to keep that long, you are on the depreciation sliding board, which means you're going to lose thousands of dollars in value. So as long as you have decided I'm going for long term, which I call the 8-year rule, at least 8 years, I'm going to keep this vehicle so I can beat the depreciation, pay it off, and then I'll consider replacing it or keeping it longer. But it's going to be at least 8, or I should be shopping for a below market lease so I don't tie up money in this vehicle this long. So now you've decided I'm a long-term person, I'm purchasing new or pre-owned, strictly based on budget. Can we afford both? If we can afford both, then I have in step 3 in my book, and step 4, which is shopping, not buying. This is when I'm helping you make this decision of new versus pre-owned. Which value system are you operating with? Some people, if they know they're only getting a replacement vehicle every 8 to 10 years, they're going to go and get a new one. because they're like, listen, I only do this once a decade. I want to make sure I have the latest and greatest. I could afford it, no problem. Some people, they say, you know, even though I could afford the new one, I want to go pre-owned. Let me try to knock 20%, 30% off my investment, so I have even more, even less money invested in the car. One person wants the latest and greatest. One person wants more value with a discount off of it, and they don't need the absolute latest. So that's the balance between new versus used. Can I get everything I need and want in a new car for my budget? Can I afford to get everything I need and want in a new car, BMW X7, for my budget? If yes, then you can go new. If your value say, listen, I could afford it, but I want to knock 30% off, 20% off, 20, whatever it is, you know, whatever the below market used car deal would be for that vehicle, then they go that route. There's no right or wrong there. But if you can't afford to get everything you need and want in a new one, then your only option is to go pre-owned. But it's all based on the 8-year rule first. You should be buying to beat depreciation to keep at least 8 years. You're buying a depreciating asset. 3, 4, 5 years, 6 years of ownership is losses, because you're not going to get the money back in resale when you're depreciating that vehicle the first 5, 6 years and then going and replacing it. You're not getting that money back. You would have been much better off getting a below market lease. Give you an example. Let's take a vehicle that's close, relatively close, price wise, to that X7. Look at Teddy's, BMW. He has an electric BMW, so he got a bigger discount because there's rebates that he got. There's rebates that wouldn't be applicable on the X7, but it's a $73,000 vehicle. He's leasing it for $856 a month. That was his best offer. Now, one of the things we teach here, we do not buy a vehicle, lease it, buy it without looking at 5 offers, 5 options. If we're looking at a used car, we're looking at 5 options to make sure we're getting the best price. We do this from home. That's why my entire system, my book, everything is called Cars from Home. Cars from Home, because we're using the internet to do this. But you look at somebody like him, he paid $856 a month, no money down. On a $73,000 vehicle, some of you know, every $5,000 would be how much? I know I got some new people on the stream, but I'm talking to the people who you've been tapped in. I may have a couple people who know every $5,000 when you're looking at a car is about how much per month. And you use this so that you never get scammed. When you know this, no one can throw, you need to know a basis of what a car should cost. And I'm gonna tell you why in 1 minute. Thank you, Anthony. Yes, $100. Great job. Anthony Perry knows $100. So if every $5,000 is $100, you're going to now look at a $50,000 vehicle and you're going to say that's going to be about $1,000 a month if I wanted to buy it. That doesn't take into account, okay, I might get a $10,000 discount. We're just talking about strictly looking at the base price, total price of the vehicle, asking price. Every $5,000 is about $100 per month on a 5-year loan. So you're looking at a $50,000 vehicle, that's about $1,000 a month. You're looking at a $73,000 BMW like Teddy was, that's roughly about $1,500, close to $1,500 a month on a 5-year loan. No money down. That's how we shop. No money down. We're just doing apples to apples. We may put money down later, but we need to know base numbers. This is base numbers. So look at Teddy. He's paying $856. You're never, if he was buying this vehicle, it would be $1,400, $1,500. That's why I say when you ask about purchasing, it's important for me to reiterate to you that if you should be shopping for below market leases, but you're shopping for purchases, it doesn't matter how great of a deal I teach you to get. You can use the Cars from Home strategies in my book, the bidding strategies, to get the best offers on your purchase, new cars, used cars. But it's not going to compare to if you would have leased, because you should have leased because you weren't keeping your car at least 8 years. You can see he's $856 a month, and even if the deal wasn't that great, even if it was $1,000, he's still literally $400 or $500 less per month than if he had bought that car only to try to trade it in 3 or 4 or 5 years and go do it again. So the leasing versus buying is the biggest principle that you need to start your car deals with. There's nothing more important than that. And we want to make sure we drive that point home. Everything we're talking about is in my new digital book. It's called Cars from Home, 7 Steps to Saving Time, Money, and Avoiding Dealerships. You can get your copy for 75% off. That's part of my welcome offer to you. This is going to have all of my blueprints, step-by-step strategies for leasing, buying, getting below market deals for high mileage drivers. It's all in there if you don't want to try to remember this. And you can get it for 75% off as part of our welcome offer. In my TikTok bio, click the picture of me. My Instagram bio, click the picture of me. Click that website and the YouTube comments or the Facebook comments. Grab your 75% off, but it's only good for 30 minutes. After that timer hits 0, the price does go back up to $97, which is still incredible. I get it at $97, but $24 is even better. All right, Dolan, shoot the next question up. All right. Cody, how much of a down payment is needed for trade-in with 10,000 negative equity? This is a great question. Depends on what you're buying the next vehicle for and what type of discount you got off the next vehicle. So give you an example. Let's take a dramatic discount like Milligan's discount. She got one of the largest discounts I've ever seen anyone get using our bidding strategies from home. Let me pull it up so that we can now, when you get the larger discount you get, the more money you're able to roll over to that deal without having to put money down. Now, let me give you an example. Why does money down become important or necessary sometimes? The banks have something called loan to value ratios. Loan to value ratios. So the banks may say, based on good credit, we will lend a customer 20% above the value of the vehicle they're buying. So if they're buying a $40,000 vehicle, we will lend that customer up to $8,000 more, which would be 20% of $40,000. Because the value of the vehicle is 40, the loan to value ratio is 120%. We can lend $48,000 on a $40,000 vehicle. So if a person comes in and they want to buy that $40,000 vehicle and they want to finance and add to the loan the taxes and any applicable fees, that might come out to be roughly $44,000. They'll qualify because the bank says you have up to $8,000. Now let's say they want to bring a small amount of negative equity over to the deal, $4,000. So now they buy it for $40,000. They get they have $4,000 in fees and taxes, and then they have another $4,000 of negative equity that they add to the transaction. The bank will say you're still at no more than 20% above the value of the vehicle. We can approve this with no money down. The problem happens when a person wants to add $8,000 of negative equity on top of that. So now they're buying it for $40,000. They are getting taxes and fees added. That's $44,000, and then they want to slap $8,000 of negative equity on there. That's $52,000. The bank is going to say, no, we only will approve 20% above the vehicle's value, which is $48,000. So if you could get it down to $48,000, we'll approve it. If not, we can't approve it. The customer has to put the money down to make up the difference. So in that scenario, what you would be asking for would be above the bank's loan to value ratios. This is why I call negative equity the bad credit for people with good credit. This is why I want you to know the cause for most negative equity situations is you don't understand leasing and you're buying your vehicles rather than getting below market leases. You take out 5- and 6-year loans, you don't pay them off, you trade in vehicles, and you should be shopping for below market leases, but you continue to purchase. So you're going to continue to have negative equity in almost every case unless you start putting a lot of money down or start keeping your vehicles longer, paying them off, and then coming back and seeing how much money you could get back out of that, which I also don't recommend. But the last thing, which is very important, especially when you have large amounts of negative equity, is let's say that same $40,000 vehicle, you're using our strategies and you get a $8,000 discount. Or let's take a vehicle. Let's take Milligan's deal. Like I said, in her particular case, she got a $79,000 vehicle for $51,000. This is a Mercedes. It's an electric version. She used our bidding system. She got the biggest discount I've ever seen, and she can put any amount of negative equity on top of this deal, because the bank is lending against this vehicle, this Mercedes, based on a $79,000 value. So their loan to value ratios for this vehicle would be 20% above $79,000. So if that's, let's say $80,000, 10% would be $8,000. So you're talking about $16,000 that they would lend above the $79,000. So they're looking and saying, wow, if this is a $79,000 vehicle, they don't care about what the woman bought it for. They don't know that. All they know is when the loan paperwork comes in, we're asking for less than what the loan to value threshold show. And they have other people that go and they pay list price. They go in, they have no strategies, and they just go in and say, all right, it costs $79,000, I'll take it, not realizing that, okay, I didn't negotiate, I overpaid by almost $27,000. That's the market value for this particular vehicle, but the bank doesn't care. The bank just wants to know that when the loan comes in, it's under $86,000 or $87,000, and they're going to approve it. So the bigger discount you get, the more room you have to move negative equity over, and that's what you want to understand. If I had a large amount of negative equity, I would be choosing several vehicles, using our bidding strategies from home. If you want to do it your way, at least calling around, talking to managers, getting multiple offers. You want to talk to salesmen and managers, you can do that. But once you get the discount, any amount of negative equity that you bring over would now go on top of your selling price. So if you got a $10,000 discount, then you brought $5,000 of negative equity over, you would be well below the bank's loan to value threshold. So it's based off of how much negative equity you have, and then it's connected to how much discount you're going to get off the value of the vehicle, which is what the banks actually base the loan to value approvals on. And if you can do that, you don't need a trade, you don't need a down payment. And I hope that's clear. If you rewatch this, rewatch this segment, it'll be clear to you. If most people understood that and the cost for negative equity, we have a lot better world. Deals. Negative equity is the one thing besides super bad credit where you can walk in with an 800 score. You're not leaving with a car, depending on what your situation is and what car you're trying to get and how much they're charging you for it. You are not leaving with a car. And that's just the sad part. So stay out of negative equity. Get out, stay out of it. All right, go ahead, Dolan. Next question. And I see you, Quinty. We'll get to you asking about Tesla. All right, Miss A, good to see you. Any advice on leasing as a first-time car buyer? Sure. Let's look for something that's mainstream, because some banks do not want to be your first lease. When I was at Mercedes, unless you were like, they had a Rising Star program, which was certain college students and, would have, condition. They had to have certain things like 2 trade lines on their credit report, but that's the only people who can qualify to get a Mercedes as their first loan or lease. Some of these, luxury banks or import banks do not want to be the first one, but Honda, Toyota, Chevrolet, Ford, Nissan, and possibly Infiniti, as long as your credit profile is good, you're in that good range, high 6s, low 7s, the better, the higher the better, and you have a solid credit report, that could be 2 credit cards, but you're paying them on time, you're not using up that credit. I would be shopping based on the 8-year rule, which is the first step in my book. The 8-year rule is how many years are you going to keep the next car? That's the leasing versus buying question. And once you make that decision, if you're not keeping the car 8 years, you should be shopping for a below market lease. And I've seen so many people that would buy their first car, or they would buy their children their first cars, and they're getting like $400 payments on these cars, or $350 payments. That's only a $15,000 to $18,000 car. So they're usually getting, a 4 or 5-year-old, Hyundai Elantra, Toyota Corolla, if they're buying used. These are the same vehicles that they may turn around and trade in 2 or 3 years, 4 years. They're paying $350 a month, and God forbid the vehicle breaks down on them or anything. They're dealing with a used car, where you can get some of these incredible lease deals, and you can get them for, depending on the car you're looking at. Somebody had just got an Elantra, and the payment was $350 a month, brand new car, no money down. Let me see if I can find their deal. It was here we go. It's India. I joined last year. She joined our program. I do have a program where I shop with people. Depends on how you want to learn. You can go to my bio to figure that out too. But these are people who are in my program. They have the same strategies you have access to in my book, same process. It's just one's a blueprint for people who are like, Deshone, give me the blueprint. I'll follow it step by step. You can get to all your deals. And one is done with you where you're like, hey, let's shop together. And you're basically shopping with me. So it says, got back 6 quotes, because I told you guys we don't make a deal unless we get at least 5 quotes on every vehicle. Got back 6 quotes. Fast forward 2024, I had to find a car in 2 weeks, so you don't need a lot of time to implement this. My process actually takes, max probably 3 days. If you needed a car in 3 days, we can get a below market deal that fast. I had to find a car in 2 weeks, so I got to work in about 5 days. I walked out with a 2024 Hyundai Elantra, 36 month, 12K, 365 a month, no money down. So this is a brand new vehicle, probably about a $26,000 vehicle. No money down. So when we consider the fact that, as I said, some people are buying their family members, $15,000 to $18,000 vehicles that have a 365 payment. Okay, do I want my my child or whoever in a 2019 or 5-year-old or 4-year-old or 6-year-old used vehicle for $350 a month, $360 a month, or can I go out and can I lease a below market? Can I get a below market lease? Because again, there's a lot of people paying a lot more than what India just paid. So I don't want you to think that's the deal for everyone. That's a below market lease deal. You can look at the commercials and you'll see that anytime you go to a website to lease a Hyundai Elantra, that's not going to be the deal. $350 a month, $360 with no money down. They're probably going to say $279 a month with $3,500 down plus tax and fees. And again, the key is this is a below market deal that India got using my blueprints, using our shop from home strategies where we don't talk with dealers. So that's the thing. I would most likely say I want my child or my spouse or whoever in a new vehicle for the same payment rather than a used one. So that's it. So everything we're talking about is in my new digital book. It's called Cars from Home, 7 Steps to Saving Time, Money, and Avoiding Dealerships. You can Google it. It's already 5-star rated. In fact, before we go to the next question, I wanted to pull in some of these reviews. Thank you to everybody who has reviewed the book. And I appreciate it. I just grabbed a couple random ones. Says here, this book is a must have if you're thinking of getting a new or used car. So much has changed in the process since I bought my first car 40 years ago. Think of it as a workbook. So even though you finish the book, you will refer back to it several times in the process. Deshone takes you step by step through the process and has videos to support the steps that I do. That's a surprise in there. For those of you who have the book, I link to certain videos to help you understand things better. I feel better prepared to go out, get the deal I want for my next car, and I know that I didn't get taken advantage of by a dealer. Thank you, Marguerite. Appreciate you. Again, you can get your copy as part of our welcome offer to you for 75% off. Books normally $97. You go to my TikTok bio, click the picture of me, go to my Instagram bio, click the website that says 75% off, or you can go to my Facebook comments or the YouTube comments to activate your 75% off. But it's only good for 30 minutes. If you visit it and that clock started ticking down, once it gets to 0, the price does go back to $97. So go get your book, screenshot the thank you page so you'll have the support team's email, and come on back to the show. Go ahead, Dolan, shoot the next one in. Oh, Dominique said, buy the book, y'all. I bought a used car using Cars from Home strategy. I saved so much money and time. It was not hard either. If you follow the steps, Deshone literally does it for you. That's it. That's a fact. Thank you, Dominique. That is a fact. Like, you're not using your stuff anymore. You're using my stuff. So that is, if you leave your stuff. That's why I represent Unlearn, Relearn, because when you decide you want to unlearn your way of car shopping and you want to do it the Cars from Home way, that's all you need. As long as you have a computer and you can copy and paste and send emails and visit websites, you can win. That's all you need. But you do need to be able to use a computer and copy and paste. That is a requirement, and everyone may not be able to do that. If you have somebody in your family that's good with copying and pasting and sending emails, that's all we need to win. All right. Thanks, Dominic. I appreciate that. Go ahead, Dolan. Shout out to the sharers and shout out to everybody running the likes up on TikTok. Thank you to everyone who hits the share button. Whenever you hit the share, tag your best friend, tag one friend in, because they may be car shopping this weekend. Right now, they might be going to a dealership later, and you have no idea. Most people are overpaying by thousands. There's only three prices you can pay with cars. Market value, that's what everyone pays. Above market value is what the worst negotiators pay, and below market value is reserved for people who are putting dealers against each other. Negotiators can get market value for negotiators. So even if you're a great negotiator like I am, obviously I was a great negotiator selling cars for 14 years, but even if I was a great negotiator, I'm still going to get market value, because the only way I could guarantee below market value is by looking at multiple options, the same way you buy a TV. You go buy a TV, you're looking at multiple TVs, Walmart.com, Amazon.com, all these different sellers from Amazon, Best Buy. So that's the only way you can guarantee a below market price for your TV, is looking at multiple offers. You could go to Walmart and say, all right, I got a TV, $700. Was it market value? Was it below? Or was it above? You don't know until you look at all the market, and that's what we do. That's what Cars from Home is about. Okay, Alan Carter, 35 years in the car business. Your advice is spot on. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. All I want to do is help people find the 20% of car dealers and salesmen who are honest, who want to compete, who want to take care of their customers. That's the 20%. But 80%, we have proven that, working with hundreds of people personally, thousands around the country, we've proven that you must get 5 offers on every car, because 80% are going to be overpriced. Doesn't matter how much you negotiate, they're not going below a certain amount. So when they tell you, hey, Shantola, thanks for coming in, but this is the best offer we can do, that does not mean that's the best offer any Nissan dealer can do. That means that's the best offer Nissan of Bay Ridge can do. That's the best offer Nissan of Hudson County can do. But there are several Nissan dealers competing, and we need to get competitive offers to see who's the 20% of dealers who are going to beat all their competition. And we only do this from home. Go ahead, Dolan. Great questions today. Let's go. Keep typing. Let's get to as many as we possibly can. Does your process work when leasing a Tesla? Yes and no. My parameters for overpaying for a lease should never be broken. They're based off the 1% rule. So how did we come up with the 1.5% rule for knowing bad lease deals? We had to look at what a great lease deal was. And the 1% rule has been around since way before I started leasing cars. So you take the MSRP of the vehicle, the total MSRP, you type that in, and you multiply the total MSRP by 1%. And if your lease payment with no money down is under that, you stole the vehicle. It's a steal. I call it a steal. So we have 3 different ways we look at leases: a steal, a deal, and when it's time to chill. Very simple. A steal is 1% or less. So what does a 1% look like in real life? Look at somebody like Greg. Greg leases his $56,000 Kia EV6 Win, $527 a month. No money down, 12,000 miles per year. Now you can adjust this miles. You can get 15,000, 18,000, 25,000. But the way we shop is based on 12,000 miles per year. That's how we judge the 1% rule. So another 1% deal, less than that. You know, Zafrina uses our strategies, uses what's in my book. She puts the dealers against each other. She gets multiple offers. You can see she used all the scripts, my email scripts. We don't talk. She gets $579 a month on this $65,000 Jeep Grand Cherokee. You look at somebody like, where is Rosalie? Rosalie Ansley is another 1% lease deal. 2024 Infinity truck, $58,000, $554 a month, no money down, right under 1%. And he's driving something he likes. This was a vehicle he got for his father a couple days ago. So this is a 1% lease. So now we say When I started telling people about leases in my videos, I knew people were going to go out and get bad lease deals because they just literally don't know how to make people bid, and they're just going and trying to negotiate, not realizing a lease is going to look better than a purchase. The only people who really say a lease is the same are people who really are overpaying for their leases, because they'll say, wow, the dealership told me, to shine, that with their lease deal, it'd be better if I just buy it because it's about the same price. That means they're offering you a horrible lease deal. That dealership is running a horrible lease deal, and they want to try to talk people into buying. But normally a lease, when you look at like these deals, is, these are hundreds of dollars less per month than they would be to purchase, hundreds less. So now we say, well, how do we know a bad lease deal? You're paying too much money for a car you're giving back. It's very simple. A bad lease deal is just that. You're paying too much money for a car or vehicle you are giving back in 3 years. That's another reason we don't do 4-year leases at all. Because when you add up all the payments, you look and say, wow, I leased a $40,000 vehicle and I paid $28,000 for that vehicle over 4 years. Then I gave it back to them. You paid off almost the whole vehicle and then gave it back to them. That's why 4-year leases are horrible. But you're only judging your lease value by how much you're paying over time and how much did it cost me to drive that $40,000 vehicle for 3 years. Did it cost me $13,000 to drive it over 3 years? $17,000 to drive it over 3 years? $20,000 to drive it over 3 years? What did it cost me? And that's what the 1% rule is basing it off of. If you're looking at a $40,000 vehicle, you get a payment of $400 per month. It costs you 400 times 36, cost you $14,000 to drive a $40,000 vehicle over 3 years. That's much less than the normal depreciation of that vehicle. So we go up to 1.5%. So 1.5%, anything above that, you're paying too much for a vehicle that you're giving back. There's no value in leasing that vehicle. And when you compare it to other vehicles, because every vehicle has a different lease program, there's so many other vehicles you can lease and get a lot more value, drive a whole lot more car MSRP wise, and have the same amount of money coming out of your bank account. So that's why the 1.5% rule is our anchor for overpaying. And even though Tesla does not negotiate, Quintiel, because this is all to answer your question, Tesla does not negotiate. You order your car, they have a one price system. When you do your lease for 12,000 miles per year, no money, just giving them first month's payment. You divide that into the MSRP of the Tesla. Is it under 1.5? So I don't care that Tesla. So Tesla doesn't allow us to make dealers bid against each other, because every Tesla is going to be the same price from California to New Zealand, to New Hampshire to Connecticut. They're the same price. So what we have to say is the lease program good that Tesla is offering? And if I divide my monthly payment into my MSRP and it's under 1.5, closer to 1 the better, the lower the better. But we need to judge that. That's how we would judge that. So when that's the part of our process that would still be applicable when leasing a Tesla. And if you have a vehicle you're replacing, or when that vehicle is up, our system for selling leases, assessing our equity, is still applicable, because we don't return a lease without checking equity. This is step 2 in my process. If you have a lease, or if you have ever at any point in your life dropped off a lease to a dealership without checking for equity, type me in the comments. Type me in the comments. If you have returned a lease and you did not assess your equity, and matter of fact, I know there's a lot, you might be like, Deshone, I didn't even know you could sell a lease. If you didn't know you could sell a lease, just type a question mark. I didn't even know it was even possible for me to sell a lease, much less turn around and have a process for how I sell it or how I analyze. Okay, Faith, I see. I never done that. Dwayne Castro, me. Okay, perfect. So what we do is, this is step 2 in our process. We assess our equity on any vehicle that we are replacing, because we don't trade. We don't trade. Some of you know that. So the equity assessment is how we don't give dealers back money. So if your car on the market is worth $19,000 and you go drop it back to a dealership, but they could buy that car for $16,000, now you just lost $3,000 of equity because they're going to buy that vehicle and they're going to resell it based on a market value of 19. So what we do is we make sure before we return any lease, we are checking the market value, getting 6 offers to see if is the price that a dealer can buy our lease for, is that a price that is that a price that's higher than our is our market value higher than the market? Let me break it down like this. Let's say the dealer buyout price is 19,000, but your highest offer market wise is 24,000. That means you have $4,000 to $5,000 of equity that we could cash out, let CarMax, Driveway, Carvana, Kelly's Blue Book Instant Cash Offer, AutoNation, Car Gurus, one of these buyers that we use. This is all in my book. This is step 2. We get these online bids. We're going to let them buy the vehicle and then we'll make $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 once we sell it to them. And I've helped hundreds of people do this. There's several videos on my pages where you can see people that are commenting, man, I use your strategies. I made 7,000, 8,000, 10,000, especially during the pandemic, because every vehicle was worth $7,000 to $12,000 more than it's worth today, more than it would be worth in a real market. And I told people for 2 years straight, once I started talking about this, I said, listen, cash out now. If you have a vehicle, cash out. We help people cash out $5,000, $7,000, $10,000, $12,000, put that money in their bank, release or rebuy below market. And some people can say they capitalize on a once in a lifetime market that none of us have ever seen before, strictly based on the equity assessment. This is all in my digital book. This is, if you're like Deshone, I don't even want to remember half this stuff. I'm not going to remember it. You can get my entire blueprint that teaches everything about below market leases, below market purchases, below market new cars, used cars, making banks bid, equity assessment, selling leases. All of that is in my book step by step. And you can get your copy for 75% off for 30 minutes only. It's my welcome offer to you. I want to give you incentive to get the book now so you can pay less, 75% off. In my TikTok bio, go to that picture of me, go to the Instagram bio, click that link, click the button that says 75% off new book. Get your copy. Make sure you screenshot the thank you page. If you're on YouTube, your 75% off link is in the comments. Facebook, it's in the comments, but it's only for 30 minutes. After that, the price does go back up to $97, which is worth every penny, but $24 is better. So go get your book and then come back to the show. Go ahead, Dolan. Great question so far. Let's keep going. Does this work the same way for Canada? Scott, I'm not sure. I do believe that most would be applicable. I do believe that most. The difference is going to be the websites. So we're using our multiple marketplace strategy for shopping for used cars. We're using 8 marketplaces. Used to be 9, but Vroom went out of business. So we're using Carvana, we're using Carvana, CarMax, Driveway, eBay Motors, Cars.com, CarGurus.com, Carfax.com, and Autotrader.com. Those are 8 marketplaces that we use to shop for our used cars. I don't know if they're the same in Canada. I don't know if they're different. When we're shopping for our new cars, we use what I call, what's in my books, it's in step 5. It's called the 25 to 5 strategy. We're going to reach out to 25 dealers online. It takes us 20 minutes. You're using my email scripts. In 90 minutes, you're going to have quotes back from all of these dealers to be able to get at least 5 to 7 quotes. So out of the 25, you're going to get 5 to 7 quotes. That's why it's called the 25 to 5 strategy. We're going direct to the dealers' websites. So I give you links to the dealers. As long as these dealerships have similar websites set up in Canada, then everything is going to be the same. The scripts, the way they communicate, the things they try to get you to do, come in, can I get you on the phone, put one price here, and then, for a used car, and then hope you come in and charge you more later. All of that, if all of that is the same, which I believe it is, then everything will be applicable in Canada. It's just the websites will be different. But Honda's going to have their own dealers' websites, so that's why I say I believe 90% at least is applicable, and potentially more. All right, great question. Go ahead, Dolan. I have the book. Great job. Great job. And make sure you guys send me your emails, just like Tiffany did. I always use Tiffany because she was the first one to send us an email, and I always make sure I reference her. But you know, everybody who sends these in, I get to bring them onto the show. I brought a couple more. Look, this one is from Christopher. Deshone, thanks so much for these resources. I read your entire book last night. I've already been underway and trying to put my deal together. What a great book. I have my quotes together. Now I'm ready to take the next step with the calculator. I'm a big fan of your channel and your resources. So I have calculators in the book that I invented. We have 5 different custom calculators: perfect budget calculator, lease counter offer calculator, purchase counter offer calculators, true value calculator for when we do used cars. So I think there's 4, might be one more, but there's at least 4 calculators that we invented. That these, you can't find these anywhere on Google. I literally wrote the code, and so that's what he's talking about when he talks about the actual calculators that are in there for you guys. So yeah, send me all your details. I love reading stories like that. Okay, Stos. What if I have a 600 credit score? How much is that lease deal that they're going to give me going to go up by? It's a great question. So if you are not in a position to lease because you won't qualify for a lower tier approval, a tier 1 approval, which is basically the best offer. Most leases are they're offering the lease based on tier 1 approval, which you don't need to have perfect credit for. That's not a super tier approval. That's not A1. There's tier 1 and then there's tier A1. So A1 is going to be a super tier, which is usually applicable on limited inventory cars. It's not important, but most vehicles, they're going by tier 1. And so most people can qualify for tier 1 with a good credit profile. But if you don't get tier 1, the payments can go up significantly. If you get tier 3, tier 5, some banks have 6 tiers, so the payment can go up by 100, 150 bucks. That's why we always have backup offers. So in case someone tells us, hey, your payment's going up by 80 bucks, we go to our backup offer. We give them a chance to actually see if are they lying to us, are they just trying to take a shot at us, because sometimes they are, sometimes they're not. But if I can't qualify for a lease, what I'm doing is buying what I call in my book a smart card. This stands for saving money at the right time. At saving money at the right time. It's not the little smart cards that you may be familiar with. What I'm doing is setting myself up to lease. So I'm going to go get the least expensive car that I can get a loan on. That is the goal of a smart car, to have the least expensive quality car. It must last. Car cannot be breaking down. It's the least expensive quality car that I can get a loan on. $10,000 loan, $12,000 loan. So now I'm going to get the smallest car that I can get, maybe like a Hyundai Elantra or something that was like 24, 25,000 new. And I'm looking to get it around 10,000, so it doesn't have to be too old. Now I'm getting that vehicle. I'm going to drive that vehicle for 2 years, establish a payment history. My payment should be no more than $250 a month. You're talking about a $10,000 loan. So now I got an easily manageable payment. I got a car that is dependable. I trade out of that into a lease in 2 years. But what some people do, which is what I don't recommend you do, when you're trying to qualify for a lease, that should be the goal. It should be, I'm buying this vehicle right now that I'm getting is going to set me up for my lease in 2 years. Now, some people will go, I just got to have what I want now. And they'll go and they'll get the Dodge Charger with the Hemi engine, or they want but they know that, all right, I'm going to go and get a $25,000 vehicle. But because you have a low credit score, you're going to pay 18, 20, 25% interest. So now when you go to replace that, first of all, in 2 years, you got to make it to 2 years with a high payment, a high, like a car that most likely wasn't a quality car, because you're stretching. When I say you're stretching, if you're trying to get a $25,000 Dodge Hellcat, that vehicle probably has 80,000 miles on it, no warranty. So you're getting you're not getting a quality one. You're getting the one you can afford, which is going to be high miles, older, and now you have this high payment, high interest. So when you go to replace that car in 2 years and try to go into a lease, you're going to have a huge amount of negative equity, maybe $8,000, $9,000, $10,000, $15,000 of negative equity. So when you try to go into that lease, you're not going to even be able to make the lease make sense because you're bringing all this negative equity over from the old car. So that's why I say you discipline yourself. You drive something, least expensive car, because you're building. You're building. We haven't earned the right to get what we want, but if I keep if I discipline myself for 2 years, drive a vehicle that is the least expensive, reliable vehicle that'll do the job for me. 2 years down the road, I got 2 years of payment history. I traded out of that into my new lease, and I'm driving a brand new car from that point on. That's the plan if I didn't have good credit, but I knew I need to get to the point where I could lease. That's exactly what I would do. All right, great question. Go ahead, Dolan. Scott Johnson hold on. Ahmed, the payment includes money factor and taxes. So what part of the lease is too much? It's too much based on the total amount for a vehicle you're not going to own. So when I leased my $35,000 Jeep Grand Cherokee, I got it for $330 a month. This was in 2018. So 2018, I paid $330 a month, and then I drove off. It was a 39-month lease. So over 39 months, I paid $12,870 for a $35,000 vehicle. Plus taxes and fees, it would have been probably $38,000, $39,000. So $12,000 it cost, $12,870 it cost me. When you are leasing, the only thing you are considering is how much does it cost me to drive this vehicle over 3 years. The lower, the better. And that's how I look at cars, and that's how I teach all people who do cars from home, all the cars from home insiders, look at leases and say it's a value play. That $40,000 vehicle, what's the below market lease on that? We get below market leases by making dealers bid. That's what the whole cars. That's a huge part of what the cars from home system is. You're not going to get the below market deal negotiated because you don't know what the market is. 80% of dealers are overpriced. So 4 out of 5 dealers are not going to give you a below market offer. They're going to hold more profit. They'll give you a discount, but they're not going to beat all their competition and give you the biggest discount. That's why we get multiple offers. Once we look at the below market lease, we can determine how much we're paying for this vehicle over a 3-year period. And the lower the better. Because again, we're comparing it to the 1% rule. So the 1% rule has been around. It's literally, I'm driving new vehicles for cents on the dollar. A 1% lease, $400 a month for a $40,000 car, no money down. The same $40,000 car would be $800 a month to buy, based on the fact we know every $5,000 is $100 a month. So $40,000 on a vehicle, that would be $800 a month. That's not including taxes. So you're talking $800 a month, $850 a month to buy a $40,000 vehicle on a 5-year loan. A 1% lease is $400 a month. So we're always judging the lease by how much am I giving them over a 3-year period to drive this vehicle. And, there is a point in time where you're paying too much for a vehicle you're giving back. And that means you signed a bad lease deal. Go ahead, Dolan. All of this is in my book. I teach you about the 1.5% rule and why we don't sign leases over 1.5%. All of this is laid out step by step. That's a huge part. When you hear me say rules, the 1.5% rule, the 8-year rule, these are principles. These are boundaries in our Cars from Home blueprint that we don't step over. We don't. And there's one thing, if you step over, great. That's on you because you're an adult. But it's another thing to know you're actually stepping over a boundary. And that's what we didn't have in the past. We didn't have boundaries that we knew we were stepping over. When is your loan too long? Well, in real estate, you have boundaries. That's why who would sign up for a 40-year mortgage? Type me. Do I have anybody in here willing to sign up for the 40-year mortgage? Anyone? Anyone willing to sign up? You're a smart person. Anyone? You could get a $600,000 house for the same payment as a as a $400,000 house potentially. Anybody signing up for a 40-year mortgage? What about a 50-year mortgage? What about a 50-year mortgage? No. Most people know, Deshone, the longest mortgage we're going to get is a 30-year mortgage. Some of you go for 15 years to pay it off quicker, but you're not doing 40, you're not doing 50, because you know that means I can't afford this vehicle. Boundaries. That's industry established boundaries. That means I can't afford this house. If I have to take a 40-year mortgage, 50-year mortgage just to afford it, I can't afford it. That's the same thing we bring. That's one of the boundaries we bring to car buying. We don't do loans longer than 72 months. 6-year loan is the longest loan that we will do on a car. It just leads to problems. Most of the people who've had problems with cars, horrible problems, they still have loans on them, cars breaking down. They should be putting money to the side every year for maintenance, but they can't because they're still making a $500, $400, $800 car payment, and the car is 11 years old. These are issues. These are boundaries that we don't step over. That's why you'll learn in my book, The Rule of 72 and the 10th birthday. 6-year loan is the max. Car should be paid off by the 10th birthday. These are boundaries. That's what we bring. Dion Harvey, would you pay 16 for a Mercedes-Benz with 113,000 miles? No, unless you can pay cash for it, you most likely are going to end up in a tough position. And I'll tell you why. If you can pay cash for it, then you can put away money for the maintenance and for the upkeep. When I sold Mercedes, and I sold them for 5 years, the people who I would literally run into that were in tears were people who the service department told, you have a $4,000 repair, plus you need brakes, plus you need an oil change. So oil change on the Mercedes is $200. Brakes could be $2,000. Then you have a repair because you don't have a warranty that could be your navigation system goes out. That could be $3,000. So literally you're looking at $6,000 and you still have a car payment and you still have insurance and you still have gas. So this is something I call the 4 expenses that we take into account. How we're going to acquire the car, insurance, gas, and maintenance and repairs. So these are the 4 expenses. And what gets people with Mercedes, BMWs, Range Rovers, Porsche, anything that's expensive to maintain and repair is nothing when something breaks, nothing costs $100. So it's not that they can't afford it. They can't afford to do that and make their car payment. So that's why I said, if you're going to pay cash for the 16 Mercedes and you've screened down title, history, service records, accident history, and then you've done a market assessment. This is all stuff I teach you to do step by step in my book when we're buying a used car, then you can pay cash for it. But if you can't pay cash for at this point, 8-year-old car with 113,000 miles on it, then you really can't afford that car. Go ahead, Dolan. Any Euro car after $100,000 is a money pit. That's why you can get them cheaper. And listen, if you know, you can have vehicles that were well taken care of by people and they just went to upgrade their model. There are plenty of people who baby their cars, their BMWs, their Porsche. They've done all the maintenance. Now they get to 100,000 miles. They might have had it for 8 years and they're ready to sell it. And it's a great opportunity for someone else to buy. But you have to be able to afford these cars. And you have to be able to avoid, if you can't afford to repair and maintain them, then you can't afford these cars. So that's the principle. And again, I'm somebody who's worked. My most expensive car I ever sold was a $435,000 SLR McLaren. So I've had plenty of people who had, $200,000 Maybachs and, $180,000 S63s. Like, there are principles of affordability that safe people, conservative people follow to make sure they're not getting in trouble buying these expensive vehicles. And then there's people who don't have these principles and they're buying less expensive vehicles, lack of quality, and they're basically shoehorning their way into the vehicle with a loan but they can't afford the vehicle because they can't afford to maintain it. And they can't afford to pay it off in time before things really start going wrong. If I got a paid off Mercedes or paid off Range Rover, but I'm putting, I was paying $700 a month to buy it, but now it's paid off. So now I put $300 a month to the side in an emergency fund. So when something breaks, I go to my emergency fund. Okay, my car needs this, my car needs that, but I'm not making a car payment anymore, so I can afford the maintenance. Problem is, when you're making a car payment and things start breaking, that's the problem. That's what we want to stay away from. So, Ron, I have to turn in my 2022 Kia EV 425. Don't want to buy it, but my buyer's 21, worth only 15 right now. So $425 a month on a $41,000 car, good deal. It sounds like it, but we don't know if that was the best deal, and that's the problem. Sounds like it. It's a 1% lease, $425. If you put no money down, and you literally just signed the deal for $425, gave that to them, and drove off at $425 a month, then that's close to a 1% lease. And that's but we don't know if that was the best. And I'll give you an example. So Zafrina was shopping for a Jeep Grand Cherokee. She had one coming off lease. She ran her equity assessment just like you. It was no equity in it, so that means she's just going to return it. If there's no equity in the lease, we just return it. When it's done, we start shopping for our lease, just like normal. Once we make our last payment, we get out, we start shopping using our system. Now we get our offers. She gets offers on this Jeep Grand Cherokee Limited, and she said it was about 1.2%, which is a solid deal. I mean, 1.2%. Great value lease. But she said that the dealer who won the bid, who she was about to choose, said that because she was coming out of a 1% lease that I had helped her get going back to 2021, right before the pandemic, maybe 2020. She was coming out of a 1% lease. So she was really trying to get back to a 1% lease, not go up to 1.2. So the dealer said, this other vehicle I have, this electric one, I could get you to 1% on that. So she asked in our group, because this is people who shop with Deshone. If you want to shop with Deshone, if you want to learn, depends on how you learn. Go to my same bio and you'll see buttons that says, see if you qualify, shop with Deshone. But I do work with people who want to actually shop in a different way. Blueprint is for people who like blueprints. If you are a blueprint person, Deshone, give me the blueprint. That is my Cars from Home book. It's the ultimate blueprint to below market deals. That's why I show all of these people who actually used it and wrote about it, and you can read the reviews on it. But when you see these Facebook posts, these are people who have been working with me and in my private program. But anyway, let's get to the point. She now says, should I take the 1% on the different vehicle? I said, you have to reach out to all the dealers that emailed you about the original Jeep Grand Cherokee and now give them a shot, because now that guy might be offering you 1%, but you don't know, is that the best deal? Just because he was going to give you the best deal on the normal version, he beat everyone else. That does not mean he's giving you the best on this electric version. He could be using this as an opportunity to make a little more money on you. So she connects, sends out my scripts. We have this contact script, very simple to use, copy and paste. She sends it out on the electric version. The winning bid comes in at $579 a month, which ends up being a 0.88% lease. So yes, when we look at a 1% lease, we might say, hey, when you're asking, hey, this was a 1% lease, was that a good deal? Yes, it is a good deal. Yes, it is a steal. 1% is a steal. Does it mean 405 was not available on this vehicle? No. Does it mean 395 wasn't available on this $41,000 vehicle you got? No. And there's no way for us to know that unless you followed our process and you know there was no better offer than this offer. That's when you know. And that's all we care about. We want to guarantee we got the below market lease. We want to guarantee we saved all the money and got the below market discount on the purchase. We want to guarantee that on our used car that we're buying, we got the below market price. And that was the least expensive option within 100 miles of me, 150 miles of me. That's what we roll. And that's the Cars from Home system. So everything in this stream is sponsored in my new digital book. This is not, I don't wing it. And the beautiful thing about what you're going to do with Cars from Home is you're no longer going to be winging the process. This is the second most expensive purchase that many of you will make. And some of you who don't own a home, this is the most expensive purchase that you have made so far. And every single time you make a 5-figure decision on a car, you add these up and you can see I've made, $100,000 in car buying transaction decisions over my lifetime. What is my process for getting below market deals? What is my process for not paying what everyone else is paying? You've winged it, but you're no longer going to wing it. This is a 7-step process. In the book, I have links where you can stay right on task. If you're on the lease path, you're not looking at new cars. You're not reading about purchasing used cars. If you're purchasing a used car, you're not using the system on leasing. You're not using the system on new cars. You're on the used car path. That's the way the book is. It's linked and it warps you to the areas so that you can stay on task and not be learning everything about leasing and buying and used cars and new cars and bidding. Or you don't need to learn all that. We just need a path for you that you can follow step by step to get to your below market deal. And that's the way the book is set up. So it's 5 stars. You can get your copy as part of my welcome offer to you for 75% off. It's normally $97, but for 30 minutes only, you get yours for $24. That's 75% off. It'll be in your inbox in 5 minutes, and you'll have everything for the rest of your life to use when it comes to leasing. If your spouse wants to buy, your child wants a used car, you can open this blueprint up at all times and use these strategies that you paid $24 for. Now, if you missed it and you didn't get there before the 30 minutes is went to zero, then you'd have all these strategies and you paid $97 for it. It's still a win. It's still going to be in the top 3, top 5 most valuable books you've ever owned to your bank account. That is the biggest thing. This book being valuable to your bank account. So go get your copy for 75% off. Click that picture of me in my TikTok bio. Click that picture of me on Instagram. Go to that website in my bio, and then you'll see the button that says 75% off welcome offer. YouTube, you have a comment you have a comment for your 75% off in the comment section. Same thing on Facebook. Get there, use it. Make sure you send me all of your deals. Email me with your deals. Every time you make a deal, I want to see it. Deshone, look at this deal. My biggest thing is seeing the money you are paying for these cars. I want you to be like all of these people who send their deals in. Look, this is what it's about. I don't want you just getting a car. We'll be excited about the car too, but I want you just as excited about the deal you got, because once you see below market deals and you see how different they are than market value deals, or God forbid above market value, you're going to see that you'll never go back. And then I just want you to send me, I want you to help me see what every below market deal look like. Right now, we know the below market deal on this Mercedes that Milligan got is $27,000 off. That sets the market. So if anybody got the same vehicle that she got, and you didn't get $27,000 off, you overpaid. We know Sean set the market on this on his F-150 Lightning. Some deals are, look, Kimberly set the market on this Maserati Greco that she got earlier this year. She said, look, it was $20,700 off. They gave her sitting at home, getting a bid, a brand new, never before owned. She's the first owner. She got $20,700 off. That's the market value of that vehicle at the time. If somebody got $10,000 off, they paid. That's an average deal. They overpaid by $10,700. So we get to set the market for these vehicles using these shop from home strategies, and that's what I want. I want you empowered. I want you guaranteeing that you save, that no one else paid less than you. And that's the empowerment. You do that right from home, right from your living room. So I will see you all on the next stream. Grab your book. I'll see you inside the book. And God bless you. Let's keep unlearning and relearning.